Hi, my name's Elaine, and I'm going to be talking today about evolutionary processes in the wonderful world of biology. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, what? I thought that evolutionary processes just included natural selection. Well, I am here to tell you, fellow biology person, that no. Evolutionary processes include such mechanisms as genetic drift, gene flow, and mutation, along with natural selection. The first thing we're going to talk about is genetic drift, which is random with respect to fitness. Now, what are examples of this? The primary example is natural disasters, which include earthquakes, floods, or volcanoes. And in our little island population, we're going to have a before frequency of 13 blues and 13 reds. And there's an earthquake or other natural disaster that wipes out part of the population. And our after frequency is going to be different, and it is going to be 8 blues and 10 reds, and you can see instead of a 50-50 split of allele frequencies, there are more reds than blues now. And what this can eventually do, especially in a small population where genetic drift is very prominent, it can lead to the random loss or fixation of certain alleles. The next thing we're going to talk about is gene flow, which is the movement of alleles between populations. And so for an example, we're going to have these nice little populations on Island 1 and Island 2. And on Island 1, this family of pinks is going to travel over to Island 2. And so now, instead of 8 blues and 12 reds, we're going to have 8 blues and 9 reds, or pinks, or whatever you want to call it. And the same allele frequency change is going to happen on the second island, where there are 5 blues, and instead of 1 red, there are 4 reds. And what this eventually does to populations is it equalizes the frequency of alleles between the source and recipient populations. The next thing we're going to talk about is mutation, which I swear is not as scary as it sounds. And normally when DNA replicates, the A's are with T's and the G's are with C's. And sometimes DNA does not replicate correctly, which is where mutation comes in. And in our example, instead of going with an A, one T is with a C. And there's a mutation. And what this particular mutation is going to do is code for a different protein than the original DNA strand says that it should. And this is called a point mutation. And why is mutation so important, though? It is the ultimate source of new genetic material because it changes what proteins are produced, and it can change our genes. The last thing that we're going to go over is natural selection, which is also known as the one that everyone knows about. And because of this, I'm only going to briefly go over what natural selection actually is, and then I'm going to go over more in depth sexual selection, which is a part of natural selection. So natural selection is what happens when certain alleles have a favored phenotype that makes them more fit for their environment. So for an example, let's say we have a blue environment and blue and pink phenotypes. The blue is going to be better suited for their environment than the pink because it is easier for predators to see the pink in a blue environment. And that means that if the pink is eaten, then they aren't going to be able to produce offspring as much as the blue. And just for a clarification, fitness is the ability to produce viable offspring, and that's what is the driving force behind natural selection. Sexual selection is a part of natural selection that is actually pretty fun to talk about because it gives us a reason why peacocks have obnoxious tails. One of the principles of sexual selection is that if females are invested in their offspring, then they are going to be choosy about their mates. So we are going to use the example of the peacock, and here I am drawing a very atomically correct peacock with its huge tail there and its cute little head there. And this dude peacock's goal in life is to get with this cute little female peacock. And the thing about the female peacock is that since she's the one who's invested in the offspring more than the male, is she's able to choose her mate. And with sexual selection, there are a couple different things that they look for in choosing a mate, and one of them is characteristics that imply genetic quality, and it depends on the resources on parental care that can be provided by the males. And so in the case of the peacock, the tail is something that implies genetic quality, and so the chicks are going to go for the guys with longer tails.